I had O&M training. So for those who don't know, O&M training is short for orientation and mobility training. And it's essentially, you basically get taught how to use a white blind cane. I had 3 lessons, 1 a week for 3 weeks. I had a great instructor. Her name was Carol Moog, and she works for the Lighthouse Guild here in New York City. And she came to my apartment and chatted it up with me and kind of explained the process. And then we basically went out into the world, and was learning to use a cane. I wanted to get some footage of that, but my wife was at work and I was getting training, so I didn't really have any opportunity to get any visual or video or anything like that, which I would love to share with everyone. But yeah, basically, first day she came over, she just kind of explained the basics. She kind of measured my height, figured out what perfect length was for me with the cane. And then I got my first cane, which is exciting. Here it is right here. Ugh. So it's an Ambutech cane, and it's a cane that I plan to hold on to and use eventually. Right now, I'm not quite there, which makes this complicated, but I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I got my first cane, and then the next time she came back, we went out in my neighborhood. So we were walking around sidewalks, and I was learning to use the cane there to kind of pick up on cues of how to listen for cars coming for which direction, where to stand on the sidewalk before crossing, and basically tips like that, how to walk in sync with the cane and have the right steps, the right range of pivoting the cane, left and right, making sure I'm going far enough left and right to kind of cover where I'm walking. Basically like the real basics of everything. And still very hard. What I'll say is learning to use a cane is exhausting. It wipes you out, because I was trying to focus the whole time, making sure I was stepping in the right manner and in rhythm. And, basically, if the cane's on your left side, then you step with your right foot and vice versa. So there's like a pattern there. Just getting used to that rhythm is kind of difficult for me. I'm a white dude. Rhythm is kind of complicated for me. But yeah, that was interesting because I was out in my neighborhood, and I'm not going to lie, I was very fearful of people watching me. I was very fearful that I was going to see like my downstairs neighbors or, someone I walk by on the regular with my dog without a cane. And then they're going to see me with a cane and be like, "Oh, what happened, Lance?" And you know what? It wasn't really that I was embarrassed by it. I just really didn't want to explain it. I didn't want to have to explain the long pitch of what RP is and, legal blindness versus actual blindness, like all these things, So I was nervous there. And then also I made eye contact with a few people walking by, which made me feel uncomfortable because they were probably very confused as to what was going on. Because, I had my instructor with me, and I obviously can see, but I'm getting taught to use a white cane. So it's not really something most people see on the regular. This is New York City, so people are used to seeing things they're not used to seeing. And then 5 minutes later, it's like it evaporated from their memory because it's just common to see bizarre stuff here. And that's what my instructor, reminded me of. She said, they're looking at you now, but 10 minutes later, they will have forgotten about you because they're going to be thinking about their own life and what they need to go do. Yeah, so my instructor, on that note, my instructor was not only great at teaching me like the literal way to use a cane, but she was also great at reminding me of the mental side of things. And, and that's kind of what this podcast and what See Through is all about, is kind of discussing the mental side of vision loss, because, there's a lot that comes with it, like me being nervous about my neighbors seeing me do the training, me wondering what people are thinking, seeing me learning to use the cane. And then the final lesson that I did was we went to the subway. So this was the big old day. We went down into the subway. This time, I will admit, I wore sunglasses. I know people are going to be laughing at this. But yeah, I wore sunglasses this time because I didn't want to make eye contact with people, because I didn't like that part during the first time I went outside of my neighborhood. And we were going in the subway, so instead of a couple people passing by, it was going to be hundreds of people, because this was early in the morning and people were going to work. So we go down in the subway. I'm learning how to use it, use the cane to go down the stairs, so I know basically when the steps end. I'm learning how to go up the steps where the cane's tapping each step. This is where a lot of things clicked when I was down in the subway. I was in the Court Square station in Long Island City, Queens. And this is a station I'm always in. And I usually just have to walk really slow to avoid people because, it's one of those places where people are just kind of going every which way. There's no real structure to which direction people are walking and where they're heading. You could be going north, south, east, west. It's one of those types of places. But this time I had the cane. And I'm not going to lie, this is when it basically sunk into me that the cane was useful. And I knew the cane was useful. I'm not saying it that way, but me experiencing it firsthand. So I was down in that station. It's a long corridor, long hallway. I'm using the cane, and I felt great because I was looking up. I wasn't looking down at the ground. And I was able to feel confident walking, like I'm not going to run into anyone because I was using the cane to kind of sweep my area. And I also noticed that people were moving out the way. I also noticed that people really didn't care. Yeah, it felt great, honestly, and it made perfect sense why the cane was invented, which sounds silly, but I got to experience it firsthand, which is a big deal for me, honestly. And got on the subway, took it to another station, got off, walked on an outdoor platform, learned how to wait for the subway, basically get on, get off the subway. And then as we were going back to my apartment, the session was ending. A lady saw me and tried to escort me. She grabbed my arm and tried to escort me up the stairs. And I didn't like it. I've heard about that on other podcasts. I've heard that on my own podcast from my guests, but it was something else to experience it firsthand. But yeah, she grabbed in my hand and was trying to basically lead me to the stairs. I basically kind of shrugged her off and said, no, I'm fine. Thank you though. And went up the stairs. But I did notice that she was she seemed a little bit irritated that I didn't want her help. She was like, really? That kind of thing. And my instructor saw it all because she basically was with me, but she was keeping maybe a 5 to 10 foot distance from me, just observing me and how I'm learning to use the cane and all that. She saw it all happen, and she said I did a great job at being nice about, turning down the woman from helping me. But the way I played it back in my mind, I sounded really mean and irritated. So it was nice to have confirmation that my instructor said I was polite, because I was kind of fearful that I was mean to this lady who was just trying to help me, but maybe she shouldn't have grabbed my arm. Maybe that's what did it, But yeah, just from 3 sessions with a cane, I have so much respect to cane users out there. You guys are heroes for using the cane. It's a big deal. It really changes how you feel about yourself. You feel different about people watching you. And you put yourself out there. You are exposing yourself as being someone visually impaired or legally blind or blind. And for me, that's new because I'm not legally blind and I don't use a cane. So putting myself out there, even as someone who does this podcast, puts myself out there on the internet and spills my heart to everyone about everything. It's a whole nother ball game when you're out there, using a cane and you know, walking the walk versus talking the talk. So yeah, I have a huge respect for anyone using the cane. And I feel honestly great that I did the cane training. I did it basically because I just wanted to get it done with. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but it's one thing that was just kind of hanging over my head was like the cane, the cane, the cane. It was very mystical. It had like a mystique to it. I didn't quite understand it, you know. So I wanted to kind of learn for myself, you know, about the cane and what it means to use it and how to use it basically. So that way, you know, further down the road when, you know, my vision loss is at a place where I need to use the cane, you know, I won't waste any time being kind of hesitant because I don't know how to use it. So I don't have that excuse anymore. You know, I know how to use a cane, the basics of it. You know, I might need like a refresher on it if I wait too long. I'm going to try to every now and then, you know, go outside with it and just practice. And that way I'm not going to lose everything that I learned. The training was through the Lighthouse Guild here in New York. They had this cool grant that I basically won. I guess that's how you would say it, but I won this grant because I'm not legally blind. I had to apply for a grant to get the training. If you are legally blind, you get the training for free. But yeah, so I'm not legally blind, so I had to do it that way. It took about a year for me to hear back, and then I got it through the Lighthouse Guild. So shout out to the Lighthouse Guild. Shout out to Carol. She's a great instructor, a great woman, and taught me a lot. And made me feel very comfortable the entire time, which was something that I was worried about. I was worried that it was just going to be this insanely awkward, you know, scenario over and over again. But Carol made it nice, and I'm very thankful for Carol, and I'm very thankful for the Lighthouse Guild. And again, I just want to give a shout out to all you cane users out there. You know, I got mad respect for you. But yeah, that's a quick summary of kind of how cane training went down for me. If anyone is interested in, you know, in learning more or want some advice, if they're considering, you know, getting the training, you know, feel free to reach out to me. You know, like I said, I went through Lighthouse Guild. I'm sure there's an organization in your, you know, city or town or state that can help you and provide, you know, assistance for you and all that. So I'd love to help out in that way. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Maybe I can help direct you somewhere.